This episode is brought to you by ProForce Athletics, the home of unique and custom sports tees serving athletes, teams, organizations, and fundraising campaigns. To learn more, visit ProForceAthletics.com. The only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. Right now, you're listening to Deshaun Fauntleroy, your strength coach and your peak performance coach. What I have coming down the pipeline is my first course, The Edge. The Edge is an acronym for effective action, discipline, growth, and expansion. Look for this in the next 3 to 4 weeks. You'll be able to find this at sportsmastery.com. What I compiled for you is 6 videos, 5 quizzes, 2 surveys, 13 related downloads, the download of my workbook, The Science of Sports Mastery, Psychokinetics, 10 audios, and more. Now, the theme of this show, Acres of Diamonds. This is part 3, and today our primary focus is going to be on reflective thinking. But before we get to that, I have 3 key terms for you. That is hindsight, insight, and foresight. Now, I have to give this to you now because we're talking about reflective thinking. This is the final installment to help you find your acres of diamonds. Now, I'm just going to give you a general definition of these terms. And now, let's look at hindsight. Understanding of a situation or event only after it has happened or developed. Insight, the capacity to gain an accurate and deep intuitive understanding of a person or thing. Foresight, the ability to predict or the action of predicting what will happen or be needed in the future. So you can see, in terms of finding your acres of diamonds, you have to have reflective thinking. These are some key terms, again, when it comes to reflective thinking. That's hindsight, insight, and foresight. We want to start applying these concepts to our lives. The next part of this I'm going to discuss is some cliches. You've heard them before, but what do they really mean and where do they really come from? That is the thing that I want you to consider when you hear these right now. I'm sure you've heard this one from your parents in the past. What doesn't kill you will make you stronger. And this is one of my favorites. I know it's burnt out, but it's still one of my favorites. Pressure busts pipes, but it also forms diamonds. Now, when I hear these, all of my life, when I've heard these terms, they were never explained to me, the hows or the whys. I mean, some of these you can get. Some of them are self-explanatory. Let me put it that way. But think about this. What doesn't kill you will make you stronger. Pressure busts pipes, but it also forms diamonds. Now, in the psychological world and in some circles, this is called post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth is centered around the idea that human beings can be changed by their encounters with life's challenges, sometimes in radically positive ways. I'll say it one more time. Post-traumatic growth is the idea that human beings can be changed by their encounters with life's challenges, sometimes in radically positive ways. So you have to be challenged. You have to be in pressurized situations to grow. You have to be in stressful situations to grow. So now is the time. You might be at a point in your life. You might be at a point in your career. You might be at a point in your life as a student, as an athlete, as a professional, in your business. You might be at a point where it's time to increase the stress. It's time to do more things that take up your time, energy, and money to get to where you want to be. Are you stagnated? Do you feel like you've been in the same place for several months or years? Maybe you don't have enough stress on your plate. So as I said before, maybe it's time for you to do more, put more stress on your plate, Add some more classes to your course load. Why don't you try adding 4 more training sessions a week? And when Saturday comes, let's connect with the chemistry and the Spanish tutor. And when Sunday comes, you should be at the SAT and ACT prep classes or with the ACT and SAT prep coach. See what I mean about adding some more stress to your plate? You have to learn how to handle more. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to post-traumatic growth. Are you following me? Now, in terms of pressure, maybe it's time to increase that too. Maybe it's time for you to play for higher stakes. I know it. You're at that Division II school. You feel that you're better than that. The kids there, the people that you're around, they're just happy to be there. They're not taking it as serious as they would as if they were at a Power 5 school. You always felt that you could play at a Power 5 school, Division I tool, Division I school, or Division I FCS school. Maybe it's time for you to make that jump to a D1 AA FCS school if you're at a Division II school and you feel that you're better than that. Let's play for high stakes. Give them that scholarship back and go walk on at an FCS school and take and earn another scholarship. Are you that student that's at an FCS school? Maybe you're at Eastern Washington and feel that you can play at Washington. You're at an FCS school. Maybe it's time to take that leap to a Power 5 conference. You feel that you could play there. Do you have enough guts? Do you have enough balls to risk it all? Go try out for an FBS school, make the team, and go from role player to starter. Are you a sprinter at an NAIE school? You feel like you can run at the D1 level? Well, make that jump. Make that jump to a Pac-12 school and then help lead your team to the nationals and take 6th in the country. Are you that guy that's at a Division II school? You're at Central Washington. You feel like you could play at the D1 AA level. You got the balls to sit out a year, lose a year of eligibility, make that jump to the University of San Diego. Okay, well, let's do it. You know, the funny thing about reflective thinking when it comes to athletes, when it comes to professionals, when it comes to individuals in startups, people that have grown their companies to phenomenal levels, when you think about motivational speakers who've taken their program, their philosophy, their tactics to motivate and teach others, aspiring others to be better. Most times when you look at the best in the world, they're in physical, emotional, and spiritual alignment. When I look back, when I think of individuals at the top of their game, at the best at what they do, the best in the world, known around the world, I found 3 common traits, and that's physical, emotional, and spiritual alignment. Muhammad Ali, for example. Bruce Lee, for example. And even right now, take a look at LeBron James. Physical, emotional, and spiritual alignment. As I said before, our conversation today is all centered around reflective thinking. Sometimes you have to stand still and just think. If you can just learn how to stand still, at some point, you're going to be able to look down, look up, look around you, and realize you're in the middle of your acres of diamonds. That is the importance of hindsight, insight, and foresight. I'll state these definitions again before we go further. What is hindsight? Hindsight is the understanding of a situation or event only after it has happened or developed. And insight, the capacity to gain an accurate and deep intuitive understanding of a person or thing. Now, when you consider the first two, this brings us on to foresight. You know these individuals. What is foresight again? The ability to predict or the action of predicting what will happen or be needed in the future. Have you ever been around an individual They just know what's going to happen. They can anticipate a play. They can anticipate what somebody else is going to say or do, and they have an answer for everything. And it just seems like they have a superpower. What it is they've been able to reflect over time. They're centered and grounded around reflective thinking. They take time to think. They think about what they think about. What I want to share with you now is how to embrace the lessons of reflective thinking. I'm going to share 5 concepts with you. These are all simple things that you can do and incorporate into your life. You don't have to go buy anything. You just have to do everything that I'm going to share with you right now. The first thing you need to do is set a time. The first thing you need to do is set aside time for reflection. Greek philosopher Socrates observed, and I quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." For most people, however, reflection and self-examination doesn't come naturally. It can be a fairly uncomfortable activity for a variety of reasons. They have a hard time staying focused. They find the process dull and boring, or they don't like spending a lot of time thinking about emotionally difficult issues. Let me tell you this. If you don't carve out the time for it, you are unlikely to do any reflective thinking. You have to set aside time for reflective thinking. Maybe you start with 15 minutes. That could be 15 minutes a week. Then see if you can increase that to 15 minutes a day. Set aside some time for reflection. Now, the second thing you need to do is remove yourself from distractions. As much as any other kind of thinking, reflection requires solitude. I'll say it again. Reflective thinking requires solitude. I'll take it a step further. Distraction and reflection, they simply don't mix. It's not the kind of thing you can do well near a television, in a cubicle, while the phone is ringing, or with other athletes in the same room. So sometimes what I need you to do is to remove yourself from distractions to do some reflective thinking. It might be going to the church alone. It might be going to the masjid alone. It might be going to the temple alone to meditate. Whether you have to get your prayer, your meditation, whatever it is that's going to help you do your reflective thinking, at times you have to remove yourself from distractions and go about it alone. It might be spending time in the hot tub at the gym alone after everyone else has left. It might be taking that long bike ride. It could be taking a long walk. Get in the sauna by yourself after the gym has cleared out. It might be hanging out in the office or the classroom or the study hall after everyone is left. Again, you have to remove yourself from distractions in order to engage in reflective thinking. How to embrace the lessons of reflective thinking. Here's a third tip that I'm going to give you, or tool. I want you to start to regularly review your calendar or journal. You know, I say this because calendars and journals, they remind you of how you spent your time, your day, your month, your year. They show you whether your activities match your priorities. And they can also help you see whether you are making progress. Review your calendar or journal regularly. They'll offer you an opportunity to recall activities that you might not have had time to reflect on previously. And I'll say this, some of the most valuable thoughts you've ever had may have been lost because you didn't give yourself the reflection time you needed. And this is a big one. This is the biggest tool or tip that I can give you in terms of reflective thinking. Ask the right questions. The value you receive from reflecting will depend on the kinds of questions you ask yourself. The better the questions, the more diamonds you'll mine from your thinking. When you reflect, I want you to think in terms of your values, your relationships, and your experiences. Before we close out, I'm going to share with you some sample questions. Personal growth. Ask yourself, what have I learned today that will help me grow? How can I apply it to my life? When should I apply it? What about adding value? Are you a leader? If you're a leader, you have to add value to your team, organization, or community. And you should ask yourself, to whom did I add value today? How do I know I added value to that person? Can I follow up and compound the positive benefit he or she received? We can expand further on leadership. Did I lead by example today? Did I lift my people and organization to a higher level? What did I do and how did I do it? What about the spiritual side? Did I serve the human race well today? Did I serve the universe well today? Did I practice the golden rule? Have I walked the second mile with someone? Take this deeper to the family. Did I communicate love with my family today? How did I show that love? Did they feel it? Did they return it? And what about your inner circle? What about your mastermind group? What about your captain's group? Have I spent enough time with my key players? What can I do to help them become more successful? In what areas can I mentor them? And the last one is discoveries. What did I encounter today? What did I encounter today to which I need to give more thinking time? Are there lessons to be learned? Are there things to be done? So the point of all this, and at the end of the day, is this last strategy that I'm going to give you. Based on everything that we've discussed today, based on what I've shared with you, the definitions that I've shared, the examples, the tips, tools, and strategies in this episode, the only way you can cement your learning is through action. You have to take action. There's no other way that you can get things done. There's no other way that you can get to a level that you think you should be at outside of taking action. We could talk about it all day long. We could take notes. We could strategize. We could philosophize. We could get dogmatic in our teachings. We could write about it. We can whine about it. You can cry about it. But the only way you're going to get to your acres of diamonds is by taking action. As a young athlete, I didn't have anyone to guide me through the field of landmines that the student athlete faces. There was no one to talk to me about partying, peer pressure, and dating, and how all of these things can influence your performance and your future. There was no one to discuss creating a legacy. There was no one to discuss defining my purpose, how to set goals. There was no one there to discuss how to develop mental toughness, decision-making, or social dynamics. And as a result of that, I struggled through much of my high school and college, never really reaching my genetic and mental potential. Peer pressure, trying to fit in, partying, binge drinking, experimenting with recreational drugs were just a few things that held me back. And looking back on it, I wish I had someone that had been through that experience. Someone who could have helped me, someone who could have helped me navigate those landmines in a more mindful and constructive way. It would have saved me a lot of pain, misery, and hardship. I would have had an edge. That's why I'm super excited to share with you the next chapter of sports mastery. Every aspiring athlete needs a good corner man. Yes, you heard me right, corner man. The corner man gives you that edge that no one else has. How does the corner man do this? You've got to have a corner man. The corner man helps bridge the gap in communication between the student athlete and the parent. The corner man also bridges the gap between the student athlete and the coach. The corner man is the expert in everything. The corner man sees both sides of the aisle. Your cornerman can advise as to the integration of this program and how to move forward with everything. The cornerman, in my view, really becomes the key link. You also need your family. You need people to be responsible to that will call you to a higher game, academically, athletically, socially, and professionally. Perhaps take you to a place you're not going to be able to do or go by yourself.